What I have done here is I've sectioned the mannequin off in a manner that we're going to go around this section, and I'm going to show a variety of balayage pieces, talking about the parting size, and we will also be addressing the sectioning of it. I've got my two tools for balayage, my balayage brush that I'm going to be applying with, and my balayage paddle that I already have lined up with product. I'm going to just place the paddle down and the brush down for a minute while we address the sectioning. So the sectioning and the parting sizes here. When we're working with a head of hair that is layered, when we have a layered head of hair, you're going to follow the layers of the haircut, and that is actually going to guide you on how many rows you're doing. So for those of you who created a vertical layer on your client, you're probably going to be doing 1 finger separation, 1 finger size in between each row. So literally I take my finger and size it up 1 finger. That will be my first row. I'll paint my pieces, place my saran, and then do another finger size, take that next parting with the finger size, and that will be my next row. For vertical layers, because the layers are so close together, you're going to have to do more rows to accommodate that the hair is going to drop upon itself and look blended and worked out. For more one-length hair, like our beautiful mannequin model today, that's not necessarily the case. And what you want to pay attention to with the mannequin model today, as we will, and your clients, is the density. Okay, so for example, she wants a ton of color. She wants to look all over blonde. Now I have my hand underneath the majority of her hair in the back, and we can't see my hand. So if we can't see my hand, anything I paint is not going to show up underneath. We're not going to be able to see it. So if you're looking to create color all over the place, this is how you have to weigh it out, by taking the partings and putting your hand underneath. Can you see your hand there? Because if you can't see your hand there, that means if you put highlights there, you're not going to be able to see it. So if I drop this down and I put my hand here, can you see my hand through it? If you can't see my hand through it, then why are we painting there? You've got to be realistic about what's going to show up and how it's going to work. And this is another great example of working really, really hard instead of smart. You want to pay attention to where you can see your hand, right? So we take a nice shallow section, put my hand underneath. We can see my hand at the root area. We can see it in the middle, and we can see it on the ends. Okay? So when you're taking your partings, when you're looking at sections of the hair, how many sections am I going to be doing? You've got to pay attention to the density of the hair, how much hair they have per square inch, and how that's going to relate to how many rows you really need to put in there to create a lot of color. So I had talked about a vertical layer, which we know is, an even amount of layers throughout the head. The other layer that we're very familiar with is shorter to longer. We have a shorter length here, and as the length goes out, it gets longer. It's another beautiful way to follow that sectioning. The layering sectioning is going to be perfect for you to follow with your balayage. It will help you accommodate placing the highlights to suit the haircut. Now, for how much color you want to see at the root, how much color you want to see on the ends, when we get into it, we're taking our V-shaped parting, and we're really going to look at, okay, I want topical pieces. So topical pieces, that means it's not going to have a lot of depth. I'm not going to go deep, deep down. I'm taking this is about 1.25 inches down, and it's about 1 inch wide with the piece. And so when you look at this, that will be a topical piece when I paint that. If I want more color, I want to create more of an all-over color change, I need to go wider on that. Why do I need to go wider? Because if you really want to make an all-over color change, I need to accommodate more of this color. Doesn't mean that I'm painting all of it at the root. The goal here is by the second third and the third third, I want to paint the majority of this. So you go wider with a section, and I called this more of a panel, right? Now I want dimensional. I want dimensional pieces. Well, dimension needs to be a little bit wide and it needs to be a little bit deep, right? So I went 2 inches, maybe a little more than that wide, and I did the same. Let's just clean up my parting here. Okay, let's see, 1, 2, 2.5 inches deep. Okay, And like we've talked about before, we're not going to be painting all at the root, but the focus here would be to get color on the mid-length and ends. This would be a more dimensional look. You can see these are going to be a little bolder when you're really looking at how that hair is going to drop and fall. Okay? So our V-shaped partings are key to understand how deep we're going to go, and the depth really relates to how much hair are we putting in there. Can we see our hand through it? Am I going to be able to see that color? And do you want to see the color, right? And then we go from there. So now, on the mannequin with a demo, normally we would have already done the front and back hairlines, okay? These would have been completed. I start with the hairline. And I know there's a lot of you out there that are like, why would you start with the hairline? That's so scary. The texture is finer. It's easier to manipulate and lift. Okay. I start with the hairline because by using the clips to get the hair out of the way and start from the bottom and work to the top and then drop that hairline down, I'm not going to touch, disturb, or move the hairline in any which way or disturb any other hair that has product on it. I've done the hairline, it's laying and dropping and falling around the face, and then from there I can use where I place the hairline highlights and determine how close together or far apart I place my color from there. If I were to do it the other way, and I did the rose first, and I went through and I applied my balayage, and then I wanted to do the hairline, the only way I would feel comfortable with quality and integrity would to be bring my client over to the shampoo bowl, lean her all the way back into the shampoo bowl, let's show that on a mannequin, and then paint the hairline pieces, okay? So for me, I would most likely process the whole thing, rinse it, comb it out, then I need to get the hairline in a really good position in the shampoo bowl to be able to paint that hair. Wet with bleach makes it runny and makes it bleed. So I don't like that idea. I could dry the hair and then do the hairline, but now you see money and time need to work together. That's now taking extra time, which means it's going to take extra money, right? Because my time is money. If I were to paint all of the pieces and then move everything back and do the hairline, you can see my concern there. I am now moving, adjusting, bleed marks, clipping, hair that has bleach on it, hair that is lifting, only then to do the hairline last. So for me, that does not sound like a good, solid plan. Sounds like I'm gonna get myself into worse trouble. I don't feel comfortable knowing I'm gonna be able to clip this away and get in there and be able to take the pieces that I wanna pick as I track up and be able to paint them if I already have product everywhere else. It just seems too messy, and I'm taking a huge chance at bleed marks or inconsistent lift with anything else going on throughout. So I do the hairlines first. I always do the back and the front hairline all the way up to the part on both sides. Then I drop the hair, and then I begin with my horseshoe sections. I always start mid-ear. So I do not go underneath and do 14 rows before I get to the mid-ear. If I have high density, which if you check the video Jen, that's high density for you. I did 5 rows on Jen, and I still started mid-ear, and she still has a ton of color for the amount of density. So I think when we're really looking at the idea of putting enough in, you cannot look at this with your foil brain, because we put 1,000 packets in that head. I was counting how many packets I put in. On a full, on a heavy high density, I put 172 packets in. On an average, I do about 114 to 120 on a full heavy. When I'm doing a partial, it's much less than that, obviously. So when you're really looking at the idea behind putting 100 packets in a head, you don't feel like you're doing enough work with balayage. It seems too easy. It seems like I need to do more. I need to do 1 more row. I need to do 10 more pieces. Or at least talking to the hairdressers that I've interacted with, that's definitely something they feel like they're not doing enough. They didn't put enough pieces in. And so with that, we start way down here, and then you're putting 10,000 rows, and by the time you get to the top, you're exhausted. Product amount isn't enough, and the piece placement isn't enough, right? You got exhausted doing the 42 rows before you got to the ear. So my point here, my long-winded point here is be smart, work smart, not hard. Be really specific about one length or is it layered? And if it's layered, how many layers are there in this haircut? That's how many rows I'm gonna do. We follow each layer. It's like, okay, this drops down, that's layer number 1. Where's my next layer? That drops down. So if you look in there, that was 1 finger separation with these soft layers I have. Be really specific about how much color you're gonna be looking at and how much you really need. So I do, for my sections, 1 finger, 2 finger, or you can do 3 finger separation. So if I have 1 length hair and I'm trying to decide what I'm doing, I want a lot of color, I'm gonna do 1 finger separation between each row that I bring down. If I wanna see very little color, 3 finger separation between each row. For the pieces that we take, for the V-shaped pieces, I am gonna be looking at, do I want 1 finger separation in between each piece? Do I want 2 finger separation in between each piece? Or do I want more? You really wanna get an understanding of how much room do you want in between the highlights that you're bringing in. And also with that is, if I'm bringing highlight from the root to the end on these 2 pieces, is there anything that we wanna do in the middle to still create movement? Maybe not at the root, but we wanna bring some color through the ends. These are the patterns that I decide before I begin so that I know, am I doing 1, 2, or 3 finger separation between the rows as I track up? And am I doing 1, 2, or 3 finger separation between the pieces that I'm gonna be painting? So that I have all those decisions in my mind before I hit go. What can I go over for you? Are there certain areas that you need formulas for, techniques to try? Are there different things that you would like to see me do on a real live model or demo through on a mannequin? I am open to it. So please feel free to comment, or you can go ahead and email me at spowers2425@gmail.com. If you go to any of my Susie Powers hair color handles, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and my YouTube channel, it has all my information there that you could text me. You can comment on any of those sites, or you can email me directly and I will get back to you immediately. But please let me know what you want to hear and I'd be happy to do a theory for you. Thank you. Please like and subscribe, Susie Powers Hair Color channel. Press like and subscribe.